say whatever I set my mind to. When nobody expected, but the stone that the builders rejected has become the most important piece. So you will hear from me. Pirchuli, Sharei Tzedek, Avovam, Odea. Open for me, honestly. Pull the gates wide, let them swing right open. And I will run through Pirchuli. Na 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 Tzedek, Avovam, Odea. Open for me, honestly. Pull the gates wide, let them swing right open. And I will run through Pirchuli.
Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see all of you with us here this morning. I'm going to invite those of you who are with us on Zoom to turn on your cameras if you haven't already so that we can be in community with you. I know you love to see our faces and be with us, and we love to see your faces and participate with you as well. Of course, we wish we were all physically together. For those of you who are new to our online services, I know I've said this a million times, but the link for our Siddur is in the chat here on Zoom. It's in the comments on Facebook and right below your screen on live stream. We're going to begin our service in song, joyfully singing Yom Zeh LeYisrael. You can find the words on page 339.
Yom Zeh LeYisrael hara v'simcha, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat Menucha. Yom Zeh LeYisrael hara v'simcha, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat Menucha. Tzivita bikudim u'ma'amot Sinai, Shabbat u'modim lishmor b'chol shana. Naruch lefanai maseh dvarocha, Shabbat, Shabbat Menucha. Yom Zeh LeYisrael hara v'simcha, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat Menucha. Yom Zeh LeYisrael hara v'simcha, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat Menucha. Kidashta v'rochta oto mikol yamim, v'sheshet kilita melechet olamim, v'matzu agumim ashket uvitcha, Shabbat, Shabbat Menucha. Yom Zeh LeYisrael hara v'simcha, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat Menucha. Yom Zeh LeYisrael hara v'simcha, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat Menucha.
We turn back to page 173 as we make ready to enter into our prayer space, metaphorically speaking, thinking about the gift of body and soul, how fortunate we are to have bodies that work, and recognizing how fragile that can be in all times, but especially at this time as well. So we join together in the English on page 173, praising God for the gift of our miraculously working bodies before Cantor leads us in our prayer, thanking God for the gift of our souls. Join me. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom, you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware. We would lack the strength to sustain life before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch atah Adonai, rofei chol basar umafli la'asot.
Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorai. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorai. Elohai neshama shenatata bi Tehora, tehorai. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorai. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorai.
Elu Devarim She'ein Lahem Shi'or, on page 180, we share in our declaration our commitment to community, both large and small, recognizing how each of us plays a role in keeping the fabric of our greater community alive and well. Join with me in the English. These are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. Page 194, we rise for Chatzi Kadesh, and if we're able, remain standing through the Shema.
Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Amen. V'amad yivrach chirutei, v'yamnich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yamechon, v'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'hagala v'zaman kariv, v'yimeru, Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevarach, le'olam olamei amaya. Yitbarach, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitador v'yitala v'yitalal, Shemei l'kodesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol bechata v'shirata, tush bechata v'rechemata, damiran be'alema, v'yimeru, Amen. Baruchu et Adonai hamevarach, Baruch Adonai hamevarach le'olam v'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvarei choshech, osei shalom uvarei et hakol, hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha berachamim, uv tuvo mechadesh bechol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, Kulam bechokma asita mal'a haaretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shavach ma'aseh yadecha ve'al me'orei or she'asita yifa'arucha selah. Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir v'nizkeh chulanu mehira le'oro baruch ata Adonai yotzer ha'me'orot. On page 199, we read together. O God, inspiration and guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land and every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one unifier of humanity. We give thanks for the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully, we recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel. And joyfully, we remember that from the dawn of Israel's life, we will turn to you and find purpose. May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds and their passion for righteousness stir our hearts. Help us to live so that our daily conduct reveals the beauty and wisdom of your truth. Baruch ata Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael, be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. Please join me in the Haftarah on page 201. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levaynecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam leot hayadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
On page 203, our prayer of redemption, Geulah, and preparation for Micha Mocha, we read together. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles and earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
Oh, say fair. Israel, ufadeh chinumecha Yehuda v'Yisrael. Galeinu, Galeinu, Galeinu Adonai Tzavot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Kol Yisrael.
Page 205, we rise for the tefillah. Open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak v'Elokei Yaakov Elokei Sarah, Elokei Rivka Elokei Rachel v'Elokei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora Eloyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim וקונה הכל, וזכר חסדי אבות ואמהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים וחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ולמען אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. נקדש, נקדש, נקדש את שמך בעולם, נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום. ככתוב על יד נביאיך, וקרא זה לזה ואמר, קדוש, קדוש, קדוש אדוני צבאות, מלך העולם.
נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel taught the meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things of space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to holiness and time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. And so we sing in gratitude for the gift of this time. Yismechu, page 211.
Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadoshei shevi Shabbat, kulam yasmeu itan b'mitovecha Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi ratzita bo v'kiddushta Shabbat, chemdat yamim ata karata Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat,
page 212, we continue. On this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults, and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves and the charity to see the best in those around us. Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence. O source of blessing, look with favor upon us. May our offerings be acceptable to you. We praise you, Adonai, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levarecha, b'yirah na'avod. How do we, as Jews, express our gratitude to God? Dov Peretz Elkins explains, in our liturgy, every blessing begins with the Hebrew word Baruch. This word is sometimes translated as thank you or blessed is God, or we acknowledge you, O God. A traditional Jew recites the word Baruch at least 100 times a day. There is a Baruch for everything, for bread, for wine, for the Torah, for seeing a rainbow, for studying Torah, etc. G.K. Chesterton may have known of this Jewish custom when he wrote, "You say grace before meals, all right, but I say grace before the concert and the opera, and grace before the play and the pantomime, and grace before I open a book, and grace before sketching, painting, and swimming, fencing, boxing, walking, playing, dancing, and grace before I dip the pen in ink." As Jews, we too say a bracha for every divine experience. And even though this moment in our world and our lives is a challenge, even though there is not a lot right with our world, there are blessings to be said still. There are things to be thankful for in our lives. It doesn't have to be big to be a blessing. It's a simple way to offer our praise to God. So take a moment, consider one thing for which you are grateful right this moment. Fix it in your mind. Hold it in your heart. Now turn to page 215 and join me in the Chatimah, the conclusion of our Hoda'ah prayer. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha olecha na'el lechodot. Eternal God, whose natural goodness surrounds us in acts big and small, we give you thanks and praise. Page 216, we share in our Birkat Shalom, our prayer for peace. Sim Shalom.
Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova v'racha. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova v'racha. Ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova v'racha. Please now take a moment for your own silent prayers.
We're going to take some time now to focus on this week's Torah portion, Vayishlach. And in a moment, we'll have our Parsha, our text study on the screen. But if you want it for yourself, there is a link in the chat, and I believe there'll be one also on Facebook. Or if you want to print it out for yourself after the fact, it's on our website now under worship and Shabbat, I believe. So it's there for you if you want it. And so this moment in Genesis, there's so many amazingly powerful stories for us to consider. And this particular parsha really focuses on resolving the tensions between Jacob and Esau, amongst other things. We have the very famous wrestling match between Jacob and a stranger in the middle of the night, where Jacob comes to grips with his past and resolves to be more present, take responsibility for himself, and really emerge as the leader of the Jewish people. His name is changed from Jacob to Israel, right? Or Yaakov to Yisrael. And now we have the reunion that he has been dreading between himself and his brother Esau. This year particularly, I've been drawn to the tension between Jacob and Esau, and also how our traditional commentaries like to paint Esau as the bad guy, that they like everything to be black and white. If Jacob is our patriarch, then Esau, who is his foil, must be fully bad. But when we take the time to look at the text, the Torah text, we see a far more nuanced individual, someone who is not bad, but just different from Jacob. And that the more modern commentaries try to help us understand how we can be different and still respect each other, how different people with different skills and different gifts and different outlooks still have much to give. And maybe it's because we are in such a polarized time in our country, but this particular text really speaks to me. So we're going to look at these verses after the reunion of Jacob and Esau, after the moment they see each other and they embrace. And Jacob tries to offer Esau many, many gifts. He bows to him 7 times, is very obsequious with him. And Esau's response is so gracious and open and desiring to make amends and have peace. It really, it's quite extraordinary, and takes my breath away when I read it and reflect on how generous of a person he is, though our tradition would say quite the opposite. So Jacob is insisting that Esau take these gifts, and this is Esau's reply, and then we'll look at some commentaries. So Amy, will you read the Genesis text for us? Right, it says we're going to ask you to unmute.
Sorry.
That's good.
Esau replied, I have so much, my brother. Let what is yours be yours. But Jacob said, no, please. If I have found favor in your eyes, then take these gifts from me. For seeing your face is like seeing the face of God. Please accept the present which has been brought to you. For God has favored me, and I have everything. And as he urged him, he accepted. And Esau said, let us start on our journey, and I will proceed at your pace.
Great, thank you. So of note is this idea, for seeing your face is like seeing the face of God. Remember, he just finished, maybe a few hours before, wrestling with this stranger, and maybe who turns out to be an angel, a messenger for God. But some commentaries see it as Esau, or maybe Jacob's subconscious, or maybe, or maybe an angel. So it's very unclear. So when Jacob is saying perhaps he sees the face of God, he's thinking about his past experiences and maybe who he wants to be in the future. So we'll start with 2 brief traditional commentaries and then move to some modern commentaries. So Jerry, will you read both the Hakatav, the HaKabbalah, and then the Ibn Ezra as well?
Okay. Like seeing the face, you have received me as if I were a great dignitary. Allow me then to reciprocate by accepting my gift. What Jacob meant was a messenger of the divine, an angel, not God himself.
Great, thank you. So two different interpretations, right? Ibn Ezra is saying, no, Jacob doesn't mean I'm actually seeing the face of God, because Ibn Ezra doesn't like Esau, right? Like that would be too good for Esau, but is remembering this experience that he had in the middle of the night. And maybe it's a flash of like, oh, it was Esau's presence all along that I was wrestling with. But the Hakatava Kabbalah takes, I think, a more generous approach, which is to say, you have received me so graciously, parentheses, even though I probably didn't deserve it because I stole your birthright, and I cheated you out of your blessing, right? So the least that I can do is give you some gifts back, because really I have so much and I'm feeling kind of guilty. Like all that I have so far should have belonged to you. By the way, if we went back and reminded ourselves of the text that comes right before this, Esau is no schlump. He's got a huge retinue of people and goods. So Esau has been blessed and has been very successful in his own right. So even though Jacob thinks what he has he took from Esau, it's unlikely. Jacob was successful in his own right, and Esau was successful in his own right as well. Okay, here's a fairly long piece by Rabbi Norman Cohen, and it's excerpted. Dr. Cohen wrote a few wonderful modern midrashim, particularly about Genesis, and really tries to understand the relational aspects of this particular situation. They're really, I think, wonderful to read. They're probably about 20 years old now, but they really speak to the way that the Torah text connects to our own lives. Dimitri, will you take the Norman Cohen? I think you could do it.
Thank you. As Jacob limped away from Pnuel, the place of struggle, he names saying, I have seen God face to face. That next day he raised his eyes and saw Esau approaching from a distance. In anticipation, Jacob once again divided his retinue. But this time Jacob did not take up the rear. Rather, he himself went on ahead. For the first time, perhaps, Jacob was willing to put himself on the line as he paid his elder brother the respect he deserved. How will brothers greet each other after 20 years of separation? Who would be willing to take the first step, to utter the first words? In that instant, when we first glance at each other, when we see our brother or sister for the first time, we feel the pain and joy of reunion. Esau had thought about this moment for a long time, but now there were no feelings of hatred or revenge. All he could focus on was how much time had been lost. So he ran towards his brother, the same one with whom he had wrestled from the beginning, with arms open wide. It was indeed possible to move from struggle to embrace. How can we overcome the fragmentation and overcome the separateness? Jacob had to be ready to give of himself, to sacrifice a part of his ego, if he was to be reconciled with Esau. And he does. At this moment of meeting, Jacob must give back that which he took 20 years before. And the text comes full circle as Jacob then begs, please accept my present, birchati, for God has favored me and I have plenty, 33:11. His gift to his brother Esau is his bracha, the blessing he possesses, the one that was rightfully Esau's all along. Jacob has grown up enough to know that he no longer needed Esau's blessing to become Israel.
Great, thank you. And of course, Jacob wants to give it back, and Esau says, that's okay, I don't need it, right? So Esau has also come to a place where he thought he was so angry at his brother, but when he sees him, he realizes it doesn't really matter anymore. They both have what they need, and they can come to a resolution of the tension in their lives and just be at peace with each other. So there's still, and so we see our focus is on Jacob, someone who is struggling with realizing that perhaps he didn't act in a way that he felt good about throughout his life. And now he has a chance to make amends. And that the brother he thought hated him and resented him actually just wants to figure out a way for them to coexist peacefully. Let's read the Bradley Shavit Artson and then we'll wrap it up. Sandy Katz, will you read the Shavit Artson for us? Can you see well enough? Wait, you are, hold on. Let's give you some, can't hear you. Okay, Sandy, we can't hear you. You have to unmute your other device, I think. No? Okay. We'll work on it for next time. Okay? We'll work on it for next time. Great. Amy, will you just do the Bradley Shavit Artson?
How can Jacob communicate across the silence of years of acrimony and hurt? He presents his brother with a series of gifts and then says to Esau, "To see your face is like seeing the face of God." Jacob compares greeting his brother with theophany itself, as if exchanging words with his once estranged brother is nothing less than revelation. But what can we do with Jacob's shocking comparison? A starting point is to note that Jacob compares Esau to God in two ways. He says that seeing one is like seeing the other, a reminder that Esau too is a reflection of God. Second, he demonstrates that one does not serve without bringing of himself. Just as the Holy One asks not to be approached empty-handed, so we too can approach the other with offerings of respect, affection, and wonder. We serve best not by relying on superficial devices, but rather by allowing ourselves to relate, to respond to one another with our deepest selves, showing our openness, our fears, and our humanity. We might then feel ourselves encountering divinity in every person we meet.
Thank you. So I started by saying I was drawn to this text because of all the divisions that continue to show themselves in our country, particularly politically. And I feel like I'm having a lot of conversations with my own children and other people as well, thinking about how important it is now for our government to come to some sort of compromise so that there is a relief package for so many people who are struggling because of the economic ramifications of COVID, how we need people, Democrats and Republicans and Democrats, to compromise and come up with something that can help the citizens of our country, and how it's important to know that not all whatever side you're on, not all Republicans are bad, not all Democrats are bad, not all Republicans are good, not all Democrats are good. And that we're best served when we see each individual human being as created in the image of God, or as Shavit Artson says, a reflection of God, where we work together to compromise, knowing we don't always see the world the same place, but in the same way, but knowing that we all do want what's best for each and every human being. At least that's the hope. So this challenging moment where Jacob and Esau overcome all their past acrimony to come together, I see it as an inspiration to remind us that we too can move past our acrimony and find ways to compromise and work out together. What happens after this? Esau says, "Let's start on our journey and I'll proceed at your pace." Jacob makes some excuses and they go their separate ways. So it's not that everyone has to agree all the time and that things will end in tie a ribbon on it perfect ending, but that there are ways to dwell together in peace, coming together to compromise when we need to. Amen. So with that, we're going to chant this section of text. We're going to share in the blessing, which I believe is on page 200, and you think I would know by now? 250. I was going to say 245. I was close, but no cigar. Okay, 250. Cantor's going to lead us in the blessings and chant the text for us.
So please join me in the blessing. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, ve'natan lanu et torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Vayomer Esav, yesh li rav, achi yehi lecha asher lach. Vayomer Yaakov, al na im na matzati chen be'enecha, velakachta minchati miadi, ki al ken raiti fanecha, kirot pnei Elohim vatirtzeni. Kachna et birchati asher huvat lach, ki chanani Elohim v'chi yesh li chol. Vayiftzar bo vayikach, vayomer nisa v'nelecha, ve'elcha lenegdecha. That was a weird one. Blessing after. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We share now in prayers for healing, thinking of those who face the future not fully whole. If there's someone in your life, someone on your mind, someone you hold in your heart in need of healing, we add them to the list of those here on our healing list. Thinking about them, we offer our personal prayers. Whisper their names out loud if you wish. And we join together singing Misha Berach, led by Cantor Berlin. We continue now the concluding portion of our service. Aleinu is on page 283. We rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא שם בחלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני
may be seated. As we turn to page 290 for our memorial meditation, we note with sadness the death of Gerald Dubinsky Sr., husband of Marilyn, father of Gerald Dubinsky Jr. and Steve and Cindy Dubinsky, grandfather of Andrew and Alyssa Dubinsky, Nancy and Matthew Weber, Marilyn Leah Dubinsky, and great-grandfather of Teddy and Luke Weber, brother of Hattie Lee Glickenhaus, and uncle of Barry and Stuart Glickenhaus. A virtual memorial service will be held tomorrow, Sunday, December 6th at 12:30 p.m., and you can find the link for that memorial on our Temple website's front page. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and oh to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love, what death has touched. On this Shabbat, we consecrate the yortzites observed in our congregation this week of Gladys Adelman, J.L. Adelman, Rose Astolfo, Harry Berger, Nathan Boland, Milton Braun, Julian Cavazos, Elliot Cohen, Binim Kukier, Adrian Dubinsky, Max Engel, Walter F. Fine, Fela Yakubovich Fenstermacher, Eva Fisher, Louis Friedberg, Victor Garafa, Barry Gershenhorn, Evelyn Gerstein, Sherry R. Goldstone, Gwen Cohen Goodstein, Sanford Greenberg, Sue Greenblum, Rose H. Harrison, Irene Isa, Josh Kahn, Nathan Callison, Rose Pomerantz Klein, Susan Netter Lakritz, Elise Vitterbo Lieberman, John Mayo McKeown, Jacob Michelson, Lenore Moss, Laser Musin, Alan Nassitz, Howard Nevelo, Florica Nicoluscu, Edith P. Pearl, Miriam Pepper, Stephen Pepper, Arthur Romick, Ruth Rosenberg, Saul Rubin, Sam Schwartz, Trudy Seelig, Sydney Sirota, Ruth Setters, Carrie Arbiter Meir Shapiro, Michelle Singer, Fritz Smith, Charles Spirit, Rose Statman, Morris Stern, Henry Hank Strickland Jr., Susan Train, and Milton Saul Washer. To their memories, we link the names of 3 who in the last 30 days, Shlashim, had been laid to their eternal rest: Fred Cabby, Tevye Lee Friedman, and Mildred Vogel Ehrenberg. We also remember 4 who passed away in the last week, their families in observing the period of Shiva. Amy Wolf, wife of Perry, mother of Stephen, Michael, Jared, and Benjamin Wolf, sister of Dr. Larry and Beth Koenig, sister-in-law of Alan and Deborah Wolf, and Susan and Kenneth Gindy. Annette Dover, mother of Janet and Rob Holliday, and grandmother of Ryan and Mary Catherine Holliday. Pedro Rosas Jr., father of Christina Weinfeld Rosas, and Benedito Oliveira, father of Marcos and Gabby Oliveira, and grandfather of Isaac. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for blessing, along with the memories of those who we hold in our own hearts each and every day. We rise together, turning to page 294 to share in the words of Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'yizman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam omei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei Tekudusha B'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, ta'amiram be'alma v'yamru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. You may be seated. Our closing song is Ki Shmera Shabbat on page 330. Just a reminder that Hanukkah begins this Thursday, and we have an amazing 8-day concert series, which we'll be putting on Facebook Live every single night. A different Jewish musician is going to have a little interview with one of the staff members or a member of the congregation, do a concert, and then light the Hanukkah menorah. So wonderful to chime in. I think that's at 5 p.m. each night for all 8 nights, even on Shabbat. You can watch that. And as a warm-up for services, we're going to have a special Hanukkah Shabbat on Friday. I believe the choir is presenting a piece. Is that correct, Cantor Berlin? I think so.
That's the plan.
That is an amazing plan. We'll light the menorah. We'll do a bunch of fun stuff. So we hope you can join us on Friday night. As if you don't always join us on Friday night, we know you do. But just so you know, things are happening. Make sure you have your Hanukkah candles. It's coming up. All right. Ki Shmera Shabbat.
Ki Shmera Shabbat, Yishmereni. Ki Shmera Shabbat, Yishmereni. Oti le'omead beinu uveini. Oti le'omead beinu uveini. Ki Shmera Shabbat, Yishmereni. Ki Shmera Shabbat, Yishmereni. Oti le'omead beinu uveini. Oti le'omead beinu uveini.
I just want to say that if you don't have one yet, I know Cantor has some. You need to get some Hanukkah masks. They are the accessory to have this year. Not that you should be going out at all, but if you are, don't forget to mask up. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good to see you.
Shalom.
Tonight